again, it's Jennifer from Sono, and I wanted to start my first official video with composting. When I was young, my great grandmother and great aunt had a compost bin in their backyard. I didn't know much about composting, what it was. To me, it just looked like a bunch of dirt in a kind of like a trash can container with a lid on it, and that we would put eggshells or apple peels if we peeled apples and put that inside this dirt and walked away. I wasn't really sure what it was about. I never saw anybody take any of the dirt out or the compost out. I didn't know what the purpose was to do with it. I didn't really know how it all worked, but I did know that my great grandmother and my great aunt were religious about putting the scraps in this compost. So I've always kept that in my mind. You know, what is composting? Now that I want to try to be a little more gardening myself, I thought I'll start with compost. I learned a little bit from the extension offices, so much from them, and I kind of compiled an idea of what composting is. Some people call it the black gold, not oil, but another black gold. Instead, compost has this value, which here in Oklahoma is going to be very important. It helps to make the soil aerated and drain better. We have red clay soil here, so it is, like you can imagine, red clay, thick, stuck together. It does not yield very well, so drainage, it kind of just doesn't. Mixing in some compost with that will help improve my soil, which will help my plants when I start growing some plants outside. Plus, composting is a form of giving back to the earth what already came from the earth and letting it decompose naturally. And I thought, seems like a really good, environmental solution as well. So I thought I'd give it a try. Now, there are some fancy things out there you can get it looks kind of like a bingo calling machine where you can tumble around the compost in this bin and put it in this little container. You can make your own out of chicken wire. You can even just throw a pile in the backyard. So find out kind of what you think is going to be your best idea for making compost. I again recommend you do like I did, to check out real specifically those agriculture extension agents, because they have a lot of information. What I did is, as I mentioned before, I'm a teacher, so kind of doing this on a $0 budget. I just moved into my home, and I have an old bin, just a plastic bin that it has a crack in the bottom. It's not going to hold things, as much as I would like. It's definitely not going to be waterproof because of the crack in the bottom and those kind of things. But I also can't just see throwing out a big old plastic bin in my mind. I've repurposed it for as many things as I can, and I thought, that is going to be perfect for a starting compost bin. We'll see. Like I said, beginner here and sure to make some mistakes, so we're going to see how great this goes. One of the things that the compost bin, it's recommended, is that no matter what kind you get, it has to have holes in it for aeration and drainage. We're going to take care of that problem. I'm going to put this big boy, some holes in my bin on the sides, and that should be the first step that I'm going to do. Once I have some holes in my bin, I thought, okay, well, what goes in the bin? Because my great-grandmother and them, it looked like it was just dirt and food. Well, I made myself, as the teacher in me, a nice list of what goes in the bin. So, one part of it is going to be green or wet stuff, like fruits and vegetable scraps, eggshells, grass clippings, coffee grounds, their filters, tea bags, and their leaves. Don't put any staples in, they say. Kind of makes sense. And then the other thing is 3 parts of it So if I put in maybe a cup of green stuff, 3 cups of the brown dry stuff, which are dry, dead leaves. I have plenty of them in the yard that nobody ever picked up. Wood chips and ash. Got a brother. He likes to do the fire pit. Straw, chopped up twigs, dryer lint. That's interesting. I'm going to find out a little bit more about that one. And paper towels and napkins. When you put it in, layers. That way it can decompose naturally. And then you have to chop everything up because the smaller it is, the faster it turns into compost. You gotta water it, but it needs to be feeling like a wrung out sponge, not super wet like a sponge holding water basically. And turn it 1 or 2 times a month. That means you get an aerator or a pitchfork and you literally just like stir it, you know. And I'm gonna put a compost thermometer, that's a new one for me, in there, and keep mine between 110 and 145 degrees Fahrenheit, because that will make sure that the little bacteria and microbes that are helping on the decomposing process, it naturally heats up a little bit. You don't want it too hot where they kill themselves, because heat kills microbes, but you also don't want it to not be doing anything, so the 110 to 145 lets you know that it's heating up and decomposing. And yay, I want to make sure it's in that range most of the time. Now, you know me, I got to have the other part. What can I not put in here? Well, pet waste, which kind of surprised me because manure, I thought, but then again, do I really want to be touching pet waste or what I thought was pet waste? And who knows what's in my dog's poop? You know, he's a weenie dog. They're kind of like goats. They eat anything. Meat scraps. So it wasn't everything that went in here as far as food. Meat scraps, whole eggs, bones, dairy, fat, leftovers. Don't put any of those things. That's why I only remember things like apple peels and eggshells. And I'm going to check this little thing. It's going to be my lid, so I'm going to check it every time, make sure I'm not putting stuff in there that I can't put in there. Diseased plants and weeds. Obviously, I have plenty of weeds. I don't need any more, so I propagate them. And diseased plants, I don't want to carry diseases. Same reason pet waste or any waste. And then the big one, over 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not let it get too hot because it kills all the microbes that are decomposing everything. So, like I said, my big lid. Yay! And that way I know what goes in, what does not go in. And I know that I'm going to go out there and periodically check my little compost thermometer. And then I'm going to be able to see how it's doing, make sure it's in the right range, and start layering things in. So my first step, let's put some holes in this bad boy. And I have finally made it outside with my bin. Let me show you that he's got his holes in him. And I am going to put my 3 parts of brown, which I just took brown leaves from the garden, and my live part was this little bit of the roses that's not dyed, and the parts that have died I added to the dead part, and then a little bit of this red Oklahoma soil. Yeah, that lovely red Oklahoma soil, because that's what's going to have the microbes to get us started. So, I'm going to finish cutting up my roses that I got for Mother's Day that have now mostly died. Put the live parts, or still wet parts, in the green pile and the other in the brown pile. And we'll start layering. After I have cut up my green parts and gotten my brown parts, and I've got some soil, so I'm going to start to layer. So I'm going to just take a little bit of my brown and stick down in there, and now I'm going to put some of the green in there, more brown, more green, and keep layering like that. And then dump some soil on top. Made my compost beginning deposit, I guess you could say. I have taken the dried leaves and twigs just right off the ground, and I put a layer of them in my compost bin. And then I took the roses that were dying from Mother's Day. So sad. And I took the green parts and put them as the green in there. Cut them up with my little snips. Because remember it says cut things up, chop them up. And so I chopped them up into little pieces like this for the green parts. And then I would toss in a layer of those, put more brown, put more green, and so forth. And then right on top, I dumped some dirt, that lovely red Oklahoma dirt. And then I'm going to put my thermometer in there and close my lid. So let me show you my final product here. All right. And I want to give a special shout out to, again, Chris from Clean Blast. Just in case you don't know what Clean Blast is, it's a local company here that does landscaping and exterior services in Oklahoma City area. And the owner is very helpful. He helps mow my grass and gives me advice on different things, plans, some of the landscaping with me. So he's going to be helping me with some of my projects too. But he's the one that gave me the courage to start a little channel here where I can share what I'm learning. So the last thing I'm doing on my compost, after I layered and layered and layered, a little spritz of water to make it a little damp. I kind of took my layers and spread them out a little bit because we have such a big container. As you can see, I kind of spread them out a little bit. Make sure that I sprayed them real good off in there. And now, on goes the lid. And now where do I put it? That's a good question. I was reading that it really doesn't matter as long as it's going to be able to heat up, but not get too dry and hot. But if it does get dry and hot, above 160 degrees especially, you better get that thing cooled off. Make sure it's got some water, maybe put a little more brown stuff in there, that kind of thing. So I'm going to put it by the side of my shed. It's kind of shady over there, and I have easy access to it from my backyard. Here we are out by my shed. Now, one of the things that it says for compost is don't sit it on the ground. I don't know if that's necessarily true with the plastic ones because I had to do it myself one, but I still elevated it. See, there's some bricks underneath. So I still elevated it, and it's got its lid on, thermometer inside, ready to start composting. So I want to say thank you for my first journey here, following me along. Again, shout out to Clean Blast and Chris, the landscaper who gave me the courage to try this. And by the way, here's Jojo. He says hi if you can see him. He's kind of sitting there in the sun, enjoying the backyard. And as weeks progress, I'm going to try to put some videos up here of some of the things that I learned to do with, sowing and growing things and knowing, the knowledge part, because honestly, those two go together. I hope you've enjoyed it so far, and please excuse my fact that I'm a beginner. So here we go. Good to see you. See you next time. Bye.